Ladies and gentlemen, our referee has called a stop to this contest, declaring the winner by knockout and new MMA show!
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the final show of and new MMA show, the final show of this calendar year 2021.
Yeah, don't scare him.
I am your host. Yeah, the final show ever. I am your host, Michael Hansen, and I do all kinds of dazzling things with microphones. Chief among them, I'm a professional ring announcer and MMA cage announcer. And I am joined this week, as I always am, by my two friends who bring MMA punditry to new heights. Joining us first on the left sides of your screens, all the way from New York, Mark Prio. What's going on, bud?
What's up, boys? Last one of the year, as you said. Props to us for making it all the way to the end of the year here. Episode number 23. So obviously we didn't go a whole year, but pretty legit that we have stuck with this thing and grew it, and we're going into 2022 for ourselves.
Yes, sir. And joining us on the right side of your screens from the Sunshine State, the Free State, Omar Artoldo. What's going on, buddy? I see you got Mickey poking over your shoulder there.
Yo, this bathrobe is the most comfortable shit I have ever had. So I just like to lean on it. It's fantastic. Yeah, what a fantastic year it has not been with all the COVIDs. But a lot of things got done, a lot of MMA to talk about, so I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, man. Well, guys, we have something of a different show this evening for our listeners and for our viewers because we don't have an event to react to, of course. And we also don't quite yet have an event to talk about leading up to. And with it being the final week of the calendar year of 2021, we are doing a year in review show. So we're going to go through kind of award show style and go through each of our own picks for things like fight of the year, fighter of the year, submission of the year, and so on. And we have 12 categories, and we're going to have fun. Guys, I'm excited.
Yeah, it's definitely different.
I've never done an award show before, so
yeah,
let's do the damn thing.
Yeah, man. We're not going to pick single awards for each category. We're going to each give our own picks for those categories and let the conversation and debate ensue. But first, before we get into anything, let us first thank our audience for sticking with us. Thank you, everybody, for joining us earlier this year and sticking with us as we have released episode after episode and gotten better and better as we've gone along. We still have a long ways to go. If you're watching this on YouTube, of course, like, subscribe, leave a comment, hit the bell icon so that you never miss an episode. If you want audio only, we got you. Find us wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, subscribe there as well. And follow us on social media at @&new_MMA show in all the places. Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and on and on. Gentlemen, before we get into our awards, let us check in inside the MMA sphere with Omar and see what headlines we got going on in the MMA world.
Dope. All right, guys. So we're just going to go over a couple things just before we get into this beautiful award show we've got for you. First thing real quick, Frankie Edgar has just recovered is in the middle of recovering from a recent back surgery he had a couple weeks ago. Apparently he needed something called a microdiscectomy or microdiscectomy, actually. It's an operation. It's intended to remove part or all of a bulging or herniated disc in the lower spine. So apparently, according to Frankie Edgar, this has been a result of a lot of certain things that have been plaguing him for a little while. Apparently this surgery is supposed to make him better. He said he's already feeling much better. He's walking better than he's ever, he's been walking, I guess, for the last few years. So it might be something that's going to improve his game going forward. Who knows? But the man's been in a lot of wars. I mean, if it's this broken, I don't know.
Yeah. Unless back surgery is going to improve his reaction time back to what it used to be, I'm not sure that is the solution.
Yeah, I mean, who knows?
I hope.
Now, speaking of retirement, Stephen Thompson has basically told everybody to stop talking to him about retirement. He's not going anywhere. He said he's felt the best he's ever felt. His training camp was fantastic. At the end of the day, when the day came and the night came and it was time for him to go up, his legs were shaky and he got really tired really quick. He wasn't sure if it has something to do with his rehydration or exactly what happened. He said the weight cut was fine. But it was one of those things he said shit happens. And, it's not like he was thrilled to get his ass beat for 3 rounds, but it's the name of the game. But it doesn't sound like he's out for the count by any means. So we will definitely see Wonder Boy back in the octagon. And I don't think it'll be too long from now.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it's a 2-fight losing streak. And before that streak, he absolutely handled Vicente Luque and Jeff Neal. I think we could pump the brakes on the retirement talk. I mean, yeah, he looks a little worse, but it was Gilbert Burns and Bilal. I think we could give the man a couple more fights.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see exactly how he kind of assesses why he lost and kind of because at this point, if that's the way it's going to be, he's not going to be a champion at 170.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just not going to happen. So last on the list, as far as nonsense is concerned, Jake Paul and Dana White apparently have been going back and forth, as they have been for a while, with all the, talking about not paying fighters enough and having fighters want to come and fight him, but not allowing them to get out of the contract in order to do it, so on and so forth. A part of that, Jake Paul has apparently called Dana White a cokehead multiple times. Must have missed a lot of that, but that is a thing apparently. And Dana White apparently thought it was appropriate to challenge Jake Paul then, saying, I'll do a drug test for the next 10 years for cocaine if you do PED test for the next 2 years.
I saw that. I loved it.
For a man in Jake Paul who likes to take challenges over Twitter and shit, it might very well be something that comes into fruition. So who knows?
No way.
Don't want to get that secret sauce out in the world.
No.
All right. So now we just got a few fight announcements, and then we can get into these Dundee Awards.
Dundies. The newies.
The newies. The newies. All right. So Ian Heinisch is out against a fight with Phil Hawes, with Sam Alvey. I'm sorry. And Sam Alvey is now with Phil Hawes. Which one is it? Who is it?
It was Heinisch Hawes.
Jesus Christ.
As long as you're not saying Spencer Hawes.
No. Ian Heinisch is out against Phil Hawes. And so Sam Alvey is going to fill in against Phil Hawes. This is going to be February 5th. Leonard Latifi versus Alexander Romanov has been added to UFC Fight Night February 19th.
Nice.
That's interesting.
Patty
That's
the Baddie.
2 such similar bodies.
Yeah,
Patty
seriously.
the Baddie versus Cowboy going down
I saw
UFC
that.
272 on March
I still
5th.
can't believe that's what they're going with. I really can't.
Do you guys think that that's going to be a main card or like a featured prelim?
Oh, I think that's going on a main card. I just can't get over the fact that you have all this hype of Patty Pimblett, and you're putting him across from a guy who, yeah, he's been losing, but he's still very good, and may not even really take many more fights. So if Pimblett loses that fight, you've transferred Pimblett's hype to a guy who's barely even going to fight for you anymore. It just seems like such an odd choice of who to put him against.
Yeah. The other thing I'm a little concerned about, I don't know if you guys have seen Patty lately, but the man has put on a few pounds.
Yeah.
He's notorious for that, though.
Is he really?
I saw photos and thought
gets
they was
super
fake.
out of shape between.
No,
fights.
dude. I've been looking at videos of him recently talking about recent stuff. He's a little chunk right now.
Yeah, man. I mean, I saw photos of his after his UFC debut, and I thought they were faked. I thought they were photoshopped.
I did too.
He talks about it all the time. He's like, I literally get stupidly fat after my fights, and then
How
I
does
work
that even
back.
make sense?
I don't know.
It's gotta be kind of be bad for his body in a certain way
I was
to
going to say
fluctuate weight so much.
that
Maybe it's
can't
good
be
for you.
helpful.
Maybe it's good for you to put on some fat again. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
I don't know.
I could see it either way. To be honest, I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's happening March 5th. Umar Nurmagomedov is out against Jack Shore. No.
Yeah,
Yes.
I saw that. That was a good fight. Shame.
Yeah. So now Jack Shore is facing Timur
which
Valiev.
is still a good fight.
Is it Valiev?
Valiev, yeah, Timur Valiev.
That's happening UFC Fight Night March 19th. Askar Askarov versus Kai Kara
Yes.
France.
Great.
That
one.
is a fantastic fight. That one's going to go down UFC Fight Night March 26th.
That's one
and
that
a
we
little-
said should happen.
Little extra side note there. Benson Henderson in Bellator is getting his fight with Islam Mamedov. He's going to co-headline the event with Ryan Bader. So to
Good.
be whatever their first Bellator event of the new year, whenever it's going down, that'll be on that card.
Yeah, they didn't really give Benson a step back. That dude, Mamedov has, I think, 19 straight wins, and he's the one that just beat Primus in that weird split decision right before Primus fought Benson. So, yeah, I thought they were going to give Benson a little bit of a reset, and they did not.
I'm sure Benson didn't want one. So,
yeah, I guess.
And that's all I got for you guys. Let's get to these and newies.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Let us begin, gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start with the, I guess, less important categories, and we're gonna go up in importance as we get along. We're going to end with fight of the year, fighter of the year, and moment of the year. But let's begin with the first category, guys. Our first category tonight is MMA Pundit of the year. So pundit, we're saying, is including journalists, analysts, opinion folks, and general talking heads. So, who would like to go first for 2021 MMA Pundit of the Year?
I will go.
Thank you, Mark.
It's me. No, I'm just kidding.
Fucker took my joke.
This one, at least for me, was super straightforward.
Really?
The end new Pundit of the Year had to be Ariel Helwani. For me, wow. The dude just had such a tremendous comeback tour, leaving ESPN and starting the MMA Hour again. He's had every fighter you can possibly dream of, even from other combats, kickboxing, boxing, everything on his show. Everyone has immediately re-embraced that show. It feels great to have that show on again. It feels like it never left.
Does.
He's had iconic interviews already. The Tyson Fury one, I don't know if you caught that one, was fantastic.
Dude, yes.
I mean, there's plenty more. Like, so many good interviews, so many good sound bites. The dude is just killing it. He's everywhere. He's on the freaking Triller events, doing the post fights in the cage. Or what? Not Triller. Is it Triller? Which
it was Triller. It was.
Yeah, Triller. There we go.
No, Showtime. You talking about
Showtime? It was Triller. Now it's Showtime.
Both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the dude has like taken over the MMA journalism world. Like, there was a time where when he was with ESPN for those years, where he almost was limited in what he was able to do, because he was like in that ESPN bubble, and he kind of became like more one of the other faces to me. And now it's like, again, Ariel Helwani is just,
that's a great take.
The man.
I think he kind of like, he was cashing in when he went to ESPN, right? Like,
yes,
he made it.
Of course.
Well, so I mean, he's also my pundit of the year as well. A lot more for the fact that he actually basically told ESPN to go fuck themselves and still has a job. That's literally the reason he has my pundit of the year. Who does that? In the area of sports? I mean,
well, he supposedly worked out with just as much money, if not more, than he was making at ESPN, according to him.
100%. But I think the biggest thing is ESPN was always a dream of his. Yeah. And it sounds like, from all the stories that have been going down and stuff like that, you guys know how I like the tea. So from all the stuff that was going down, Ariel was basically getting blackballed by Dana White. And, it was kind of messing with a lot of opportunities that he should have had just based on what he was doing and how much work he was putting in that he was getting passed over for. He wasn't getting the same exposure as you actually see a lot more people getting now. Excuse me. One example, and I think we've talked about it on the show before, matter of fact, is in between fights, major fights, even commercials and stuff like that, they have now commercials for like DC and this other RC, whoever the hell guy. They have commercials for Chael Sonnen's podcast and his show and stuff like that, but they never, and I mean never, had any commercials for Ariel and the bad guy, for Ariel and DC, never. And it was because of Ariel and Dana White's legitimate issues with each other. And so it's kind of sad that like Dana White had the power to kind of ruin a dream that this kid really had, that legitimately worked for to get, and then had to leave to really expand and do what he's able to do. And to be fair, he really didn't need ESPN to do it, but it would have been nice if they had embraced him the way that they should have.
Yeah, I was going to say sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I'm just glad that he finally, because Ariel's always been known as like the guy who's like too nice, doesn't want to fight, cries on camera, whatever. He is a lot about himself, whether he wants to admit it or not. But it was nice to kind of see him just say fuck you finally to somebody, and him kind of come out on top. So
totally agree. And I was just gonna say, my one caveat is that as much as that's totally correct that he would have been a bigger deal at ESPN and had more chances if it wasn't for his ongoing issues with Dana, I almost feel like he still ended up in the right place in terms of where he should be for what he does. Like he wasn't able to really do fighter interviews at ESPN. And that to me is like where he shines. Like that's his bread and butter, is all his connects that he has and the way he's able to get these fighters to open up and answer questions that they don't answer for any other reporter.
Yep.
So he couldn't, no matter how good the relationship with Dana or ESPN was, I feel like he never would have been able to do that there. And then also I feel like he couldn't really give takes in certain ways, which he still avoids at times giving strong takes.
Yeah.
But he's been doing it more and more now that he's free of like the promotional ESPN umbrella and just doing his own thing. So I feel like he is in the right place for what Ariel Helwani's skills are.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would have to pick Ariel for my MMA Pundit of the Year as well, because at this point in 2021, Ariel Helwani is still the face of MMA journalism, whether we want to call it journalism or not, or call so-and-so or so-and-so journalist or not. In the whole category, including pundits, including talking heads, this guy has somehow, he still completely dominates this entire category. How many times has Ariel Helwani won Journalist of the Year for various publications?
I
think he's won it 10 consecutive times.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's won it
show you
ever.
Yeah.
He's like the Jose Aldo of those awards. Like,
I will say Brett Okamoto is getting like closer while still being very far away. But he did have like a lot of good sit down interviews that I saw this year.
So the one I would want to highlight is actually Kevin Iole. Kevin Iole doesn't get enough credit for actually all those post-fight interviews that motherfuckers get sound bites for and clips for, all those fighter interviews that are happening on media day and the fighter conferences and all that stuff. All that is usually by one of the 30 questions Kevin Iole asks. And he actually generally asks very good questions. And some of the other reporters, if you actually watch the entirety of those events, ask some dumbass questions, man.
Oh, yeah. I feel like it's Iole and John Morgan. John Morgan always has good questions.
Yep. So it's a very limited bunch that we really have to work with when it comes to real journalists. But Kevin Iole should definitely be highlighted for that.
Any other honorable mentions, Mark?
No, sir.
I'll have to say, in terms of talking heads, I think Chael Sonnen has really hit a stride with his YouTube. The guy is prolific. He cranks out analyst MMA commentary on his channel. He films and records long form episodes. Then he chops them up into dozens of little, like, either 1 minute up to 5 minute clips. And the guy always comes with takes, man. And sometimes they're great takes. Sometimes they're very kind of his take and kind of controversial, but sometimes he claps back at guys. He's pretty entertaining.
Yeah, the way he presents it is very attractive. Like, you just can't help but just sort of get sucked into the way he can tell a story and sort of build everything together. It's very
right. And it's just him in a chair.
Skill.
It's just him in a chair by himself, talking from the point of view of an expert, of being like, listen, here's my take. Here's what it is. And
to circle this back to Ariel, I actually feel like Chael grew from being on the show with Ariel when they had their show.
The back and forth was brilliant as far as I was concerned. I loved the back and forth. I think it sucks that they don't have that now anymore.
Oh, agree. Yeah.
All right. We are in agreement. We have a consensus on the first award, the new Pundit of the Year. All three go to Ariel Helwani. Congrats, Ariel. Let's now move on to
your reward in the mail.
Yes.
Yeah, and I just want to say, for anyone listening, feel free to throw your own picks up on YouTube
Please.
or wherever you are, so we can see what you guys are picking.
Yes.
We will add our list to the comments, so you guys can just take a look on there and then just kind of respond with yours.
Absolutely. Okay, second category tonight is the new MMA Referee of the Year. Omar, would you like to go first on this one?
Sure.
Gotta be Omar to start it off.
My referee of the year is Jason Herzog. Jason Herzog right now at this point is still the one referee. I don't think I've ever questioned why he's done something. I think I've pretty much been on par with everything that he's decided. Some of the other referees, I know some more than others. I definitely have not agreed with their decision. So I think Jason Herzog has definitely earned that spot for me.
Mark?
So I was between Herzog and Goddard. I feel like this is a harder one because it's hard to like think back on every referee performance and be like, did they have a fuck up? Like it's like you notice it in the moment, of course, but then like you lose it. Unless it's like Herb Dean touching people every 30 seconds when he's not trying to stop fights. You remember stuff like that. But because you said Herzog, I will say Goddard. I always feel like Goddard is like very calm and in control and doesn't allow the bullshit and is very on top of it if something needs to be like settled and that type of deal. I feel like the fight is safe in Goddard's hands.
That's great. That's a great pick. I'm gonna go with Jason Herzog. I think my respect and love of Jason Herzog is pretty well documented on this show. To your point, Mark, maybe there probably is some obscure website out there on the internet that is a database for referees' performances.
Yes.
In terms of like early stoppages, late stoppages, blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
But I'm not omniscient to that degree. So in this category, I just asked myself, if there's this, super high stakes championship fight, who is the one referee that I want in there who I would not want to, who I would think would not fuck it up. And for me, it's Herzog, man. He is never a referee. Let me say it the other way. There are other referees, and I won't say any names because, we're kind of splitting hairs to a certain extent. Sure. But there are other referees who I watch in a fight and I'm like, Jesus, why is he so far away? Or like, oh my God, like, why is he so out of position? Or either late stoppage or early stoppage. I've never felt that way with Herzog. He does such a great job of balancing being like right there in the moment, but not being, not making it about him at all. I just love the guy. I love watching him referee, and he is a gem in the sport.
His communication is something that should be reveled and like done across the MMA world, because he's very clear, very concise about what he wants. If there's a translator that's necessary, he'll fucking wait for a translator and make sure that message is 100% clear.
Yeah.
And that way we don't gap this problem the second time. He's very good about like throwing out point deductions when they need to be thrown out, warnings when they're appropriate. I love the way the man refs, man. I really do.
Yeah. For me, I will say honorable mention to Mark Smith. To me, I think I don't know why he seems like he's still relatively new on the scene of refereeing. I also love the way he refs. He's in such command of the fight. He is the best referee that I've seen at calling a stop to the action. Other refs are like, "Hey, stop, guys, stop." Mark Smith is like, "Stop," and I'm just like, "Oh, damn, they're gonna stop."
That's true. He does have the loud stop.
Any other honorable mentions from you guys?
Nah.
Okay.
Mark Goddard is a good one.
Love Goddard, man. I feel like Goddard's underappreciated because he's found himself in so many sort of moments of controversy.
Yeah, but I feel like he's gotten better.
Yeah, I think he's gotten better. He's gotten better at kind of.
Herzog's probably the right answer, though. You guys are probably right.
Just too much nonsense with Keith Peterson.
Oh yeah, no nonsense.
All right, let us move on. Our next category of the evening is the and new MMA show Coach of the Year. I will go first. My pick for Coach of the Year has got to be Trevor Whitman, man. This guy has been one of my top favorite coaches in MMA for years, and the guy is like a fine wine, man. He's just getting better and better. He's like sensei. He is like Yoda. Watching him coach his fighters. I'm sure you guys have seen those videos and GIFs of him. When his fighter scores like a knockout, he barely flinches over in the corner. He's just kind of like, he kind of is just like relaxed and smiling. He's like, yeah, that's how it was going to go.
Yeah.
What about you guys?
I mean, I feel like we're probably all unanimous here.
Yeah. You go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, it has to be Trevor Whitman. 3 for 3 of the biggest and most high stake fighters in the game right now. Everything's on the line with all 3 of them. and they all come out there and they all perform like fucking savages.
Yeah.
Like not even that they won. Forget that they won. How they win. Like Kamaru's out there murdering people now, all of a sudden. Okay. Justin Gaethje is boxing people up left and right, making us wonder if Tony Ferguson is done. That's how bad it is. Okay. Then you've got Rose Namajunas like drop kicking people into space, and then following up as Namajunas does with a 5-round decision. In case y'all forgot, he's fantastic. You can see the way that he communicates and the way that he has a relationship with the fighters. It's one of those things that's very unique. It doesn't come around very often. Probably on two hands you can count over the course of the MMA lifespan how many relationships there have been like that in MMA. So I'm just glad we're alive to see this right now.
Yeah, man. Mark?
Yeah, there's only one answer to this question, and it is the one that both of you said. It's Trevor Whitman. The man coaches 3 fighters. That is it. Yep. 3 total fighters. They fought 6 times this year. They won all 6. One of them is the welterweight champion and number 1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. The other is the women's strawweight champion and up there in the women's pound-for-pound. And the other is about to fight for the lightweight title in the new year. I mean, you can't do better. You can't. The guy's awesome. And literally every time I watch him on like Embedded or Countdown, I don't get this feeling with any other coach. I watch other coaches and I'm like, oh, okay. I watch him and I'm like, man, if he coached me, I'd be nice. Like, he really, like, you're like, this guy could make anyone great. Like, he has such that vibe where it's like, man, this guy is like a freaking Jedi.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, you cannot do better than 3 fighters and 6-0 in a year. It's got to be Trevor Whitman.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Any honorable mentions you guys want to throw out there?
I'm sure there's some. I honestly didn't come up with any for this one just because I feel like Whitman was such a clear answer.
Yeah, same. Okay, let's move on. Our next category number 4, the and new breakthrough fighter of the year. Mark, please take it first.
Oh, I was hoping you were going to say Omar. Because
Omar, go first.
I'm so torn.
So I also was having a hard time with this, I guess. So I think we're all kind of hurt by recency bias to a certain extent. Because with this one, I was kind of trying to remember the feeling of like somebody kind of coming out of their shell or somebody kind of breaking through that wall that they may have never seemed to break out of. So with that being said, my pick was Kai Kara-France. I think that he actually got through that hump that I think he was never really able to do at one point. And now that we know that he's got a fight with Askarov, I just think it's one of those things where he's probably that fight away from getting a title shot, which for Kai Kara-France is a big, big deal.
Okay. Mr. Priel?
I think that I have to go with Juliana Pena. Like, I wanted to be cuter than that and pick someone who was like not a champion. But for her to go from like one of the girls, like it's not even like if you rattled off like the top 3 and that's like you weren't even saying her name. It was like Durandame and Holm and obviously Nunez. Like, she was like down in the mix and no one gives her a chance. And for her to break out from being just another girl to beating the women's GOAT and being the women's bantamweight champion, I feel like I got to go with her. I got plenty more honorable mentions of people I was debating, but I think I got to go with Juliana Pena.
Wow.
She took herself to a different stratosphere.
Wow. This was tough for me as well. I also contemplated taking a champion. I contemplated taking Hamzat, but I feel like he kind of already broke out.
Yeah, I contemplated it too because it's like he was like dying with COVID, and then he comes back and like trounces Jing Liang, so it kind of works.
Yeah. I'm not sold on this Hamzat yet. He was a beast. Don't get me wrong.
You're not sold on him yet. Wow.
No, not to that extent. Not that he was you need to do more against somebody who's done a lot. And there are a lot of people in that division who Li Jing Liang is probably somebody that was a very good test to see where he's at. He's definitely not in the bottom 15, right? But let's see exactly where he's at in terms of all the hype that he's talking about. Everybody's been hyping him up so much. He's been hyping himself up so much that him winning the way that he won makes it all the more better. But I still need to see more.
Okay. So my pick for breakout fighter of the year is Yuri Prohaska.
Okay.
He's a guy who clearly, obviously, has had a fairly long and successful pro career already. He was 26-3 before he got to the UFC. Spent a lot of time at Ryzen, but I just feel like in his first 2 fights in the UFC, his first one being last year in July of 2020, where he knocked out Volkan Oezdemir. But then in when was it? It was May of this year is when he knocked out Dominic Reyes in such spectacular fashion.
Yeah,
I was like, this guy has arrived. Like a statement win of statement wins. I thought that was a star-making performance of a guy who clearly has what it takes to go all the way and to win UFC gold.
That's like that.
Pick. Thank you. I almost picked Brandon Moreno in a similar fashion as you, Mark.
He was on my list. Moreno was on my list. Chimaev, as you said, was on my list. The one I debated, I think, the most against Pena was AJ McKee.
Yes.
Only one fight, but it took AJ McKee from like, maybe this guy's a contender to Pitbull's belt to like, this guy is an absolute stud and maybe he's the best featherweight on the planet, depending who how you want to break that down. So I feel like he's a great choice. And then my other, I kind of had like a trio that I was debating. My other was Islam. Simply because he spent so long in the UFC where he was kind of fighting like random guys and was never having that like true breakthrough, despite the way people talked about him or whatever. And then this year he rattles off Drew Dober, Thiago Moises, and Dan Hooker, truly vaults into like that title contendership where everyone's talking about him like he's an elite guy now. So I feel like that was another good choice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any honorable mentions from Omar?
No, I did not have any for that one.
Okay, let's move on. This is going to be a tricky, I think maybe a very spread apart category. Our next category of the evening is and new underappreciated fighter of the year. Who would like to go first?
I'll go first with this one.
Okay.
The guy I have for underappreciated fighter is AJ McKee.
Oh,
he is my underappreciated fighter. I don't think people, first of all, I know people don't know that man's name the way that they should. That's number one. Number two, I don't think people realize that kid's undefeated. Number three, the way he just beat Pitbull, nobody beats Pitbull like that. Like that, I mean, is just crazy. And he not only beat him like that, but he called that fight. He called that shot and then beat the shit out of Pitbull. Like, and no one knows his name. It's the craziest thing in the world, and super sad that kid isn't on fucking billboards and shit. He really should be.
It's a great one. I didn't even think about him just because in my mind he's such a star, but you're absolutely right. That's a great pick.
When I was going through a lot of because I was doing it with my wife and we were going through a lot of these things together and stuff. And I said AJ McKee, and she looked at me and she had no idea who it was. And I said, just prove my point. Just prove my point.
Yeah. So Mike, should I always be going after Omar? I don't know what the rules are here.
I don't care. It's okay. I'll go next. This is a tough one for me. I kind of racked my brain on this one. Like underappreciated. Who do I think other people don't appreciate enough? I went with Thiago Santos at light heavyweight. I feel like the guy is just such a killer, and he's not exactly a household name. And he has fought the very best at light heavyweight. He fought John Jones almost to a win. He won on one of the judges' scorecards. He fought Glover. He beat Johnny Walker. He beat Jan Blachowicz. He beat Jimmy Manuwa. I mean, the guy's fought sort of a who's who, and I just feel like he doesn't exactly have the shine on his name that I think he should. That's my pick.
All right, I like it. Me and Omar have a little theme here because I'm going over to Bellator as well. And I actually even debated another Bellator guy. I thought about Vadim Nemkov for this, which I thought is what Mike was going to do, to be honest, because I know you love him. I'm going to go Yaroslav Amosov. The man is the Bellator welterweight champion, Same note as AJ McKee. He's 26-0. I don't think people realize it. He's never lost a fight. He is 7-0 in Bellator thus far, worked his way up, and took the belt off Douglas Lima without really any problem, who has been the champ there for quite a while. So, yeah, I think that it's maybe because he only had the one like high-profile fight in Bellator thus far, which you could say the same about McKee, so maybe things change this year. But I think it's Yaroslav Amosov.
Okay. My theory is the Russian names do not help, like the Dagestani names.
Mm-hmm.
This is my theory, because I'll be honest with you. I remember the fight with Douglas Lima. I did not realize you were talking about the same guy just now. You know what I mean? Like, if we had a name, like a nickname to work off of that I could stick to, it might work. But just a lot of these names just keep melding together, and it gets very difficult to keep in mind who's who now.
I get that.
Okay, let's move on to the next category is the and new comeback fighter of the year. I will go first. To me, this one was kind of straightforward. I'm going with TJ Dillashaw as the comeback fighter of the year.
Interesting.
Guy came back and defeated one of the brightest new stars in the men's bantamweight division in Corey. So that's my pick, Dillashaw.
That's fair. I'm going with the man who I am hoping is fighting Dillashaw and going with Jose Aldo.
Okay.
Simply because, as we've discussed on here before, the guy's a legend. Obviously, he's done it all. He has had his losses of late. He kind of had hit a point in his career where people were writing him off, thinking he was kind of done in these title contender type fights. Comes back this year, turns back Pedro Munoz, turns back Rob Font. Looks super impressive. Looks like he's got a new energy about him, and now he's hopefully going to be in a huge fight with TJ Dillashaw. So that was a hell of a comeback for me.
Absolutely. Wow. Great pick.
My pick is the boy Glover Teixeira.
Ooh, wow.
I mean, that's just, I'm telling you, that's a movie waiting to happen. That is a career of legend right there. Between all the political obstacles with him not being able to get like a visa way back when, this, that, and the other, him supposed to be in the UFC earlier than he ended up being. He's like old as shit now, and he shouldn't be winning championships. And here he goes, walks in a cage with Jan Blachowicz, or Jan Blachowicz, and submits him and like kind of fucks him up for a little bit too before submitting him. And it was just a moment that was just so fantastic to see parade when he gets back home. Couldn't be happier for a nicer guy. It was a great, if he walked away from the sport right after that, it would have been like a beautiful bow on a career, because he's had a great career.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, man. Any other honorable mentions from you guys?
Yeah, I had a few guys I considered that I'll just throw out very quickly. One was Dominic Cruz. Kind of seemed like he could be done. Lost to Cejudo under the weird circumstances back in 2020. Comes back this year, rattles off 2 wins, right back into contention. Another, maybe not quite who you'd be thinking of, but Sean O'Malley endured the leg injury with Marlon Vera last year. Comes back this year, trounces 3 guys in typical Sean O'Malley fashion to get right back in the mix. And then my last 2 that I thought about were 2 light heavyweights, Anthony Smith, Corey Anderson. I feel like they both were guys who kind of got put into that middle pack by people, and they both showed that they are still elite as this year went on.
Nice. Very nice. Very nice. All right, let us move on now to our 6th category of the evening. Oh, no, I'm sorry. What are we up to? Seventh category. Okay. The comeback of the year. And now this is different from the comeback fighter of the year. The comeback of the year is a fighter who came back in a fight. Somebody who was in real trouble, in fight, and came back to win. Omar, why don't you take this one first?
So for this one, I've got Moraes versus Merab.
Ooh.
Dude, Merab couldn't have been any more in trouble if he wasn't knocked out already. that was as bad in trouble as you could possibly get in a fight. He survives, and not only survives, but after the first round, he comes back in the second round like if nothing happened in the first round, and beats the living shit out of Marlon Moraes, which in and of itself is a feat, yet let alone to do it after coming back from your own beating. So that has to be comeback of the year.
That's a great pick. Great pick. I'll go next. The comeback of the year, in my opinion, I give it to Charles Oliveira in his fight against Michael Chandler. Yep. I mean, you could also argue about his fight against Dustin, which he was also kind of in trouble in the first round. But in the first round against Mike Chandler, he was really almost, Chandler almost got him out of there. And to come back on that stage with those stakes to win the UFC lightweight championship, just tremendous. An unbelievable comeback. One of the greatest moments of his career.
Yeah, I debated between those two. I got a couple more here, but I came down to those two, and I went with Merab. Obviously, Charles is my boy, but I just feel like the Merab one was so nuts, the way he was like literally falling and running around the cage. And it was like, oh, he's going to die. Oh, he's going to die. Oh, he's going to die. And he just wouldn't. And then comes out of round two, like Omar said, like nothing happened and just absolutely bludgeons Moraes. It was just, that one was crazy. And I feel like because of the sheer insanity, it has to be the winner for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
I'm dying over here.
Well,
some others that I considered, if I may, obviously the Charles one. Another great one was Sergio Pettis losing every single minute of the fight against Horiguchi and landing the spinning back fist to defend the title.
Great honorable mention.
And then a couple others were Clay Guida getting trounced in round one, coming back to tap out Leo Santos, and Gerald Mearshart, which was a while back, may not remember, but fighting Mahmoud Muradov, just seeming like he was totally outclassed and eating punch after punch after punch directly to his face and refusing to go away and just staying on top of Muradov until Muradov wilted and tapping him out. That was also a great one for me.
There was a fight that happened. I cannot for the life of me remember their names now, but it was one kid against another guy who was a big Brazilian jiu-jitsu fighter. Very, very big. He was a heavy favorite in the fight. And he like wails on this kid for a full round.
Yes.
And gasses
do you want to tell you who it is?
Go ahead.
So I considered it for my sub of the year, but I didn't take it. The Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu expert was Rodolfo Vieira.
Yes.
And the man that subbed him was Anthony Hernandez.
Yes. So that's a crazy one, just because by the end of it, he was so tired. This Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu expert was so tired that he ends up getting caught in an arm-in guillotine, which is kind of a terrible look for an arm-in guillotine. But anyway, that was a nice little honorable mention there.
Nice. Let us go on. It's getting juicier and juicier, folks. We are now up to what I kind of consider like the main awards. Okay, so for category number 8 is the and new submission of the year. Mark, why don't you go first on this one?
So my bronze medal was the one Omar just said. Man, my voice I'm struggling. Let me mute this to cough real fast.
Get it out. Yeah.
That was muted, right?
Yep.
All right, I'm dying.
I like Omar last time.
So yeah, that was my bronze medal, the Anthony Hernandez one. It was just nuts for him to sub Rodolfo Vieira that way. I ended up between two. I won't say the other in case one of you guys are taking it first.
That's fine.
Mine that I settled on is Andre Muniz arm barring Jacare Souza. I factored in a lot of things. You got to factor in who is being subbed, and the man being subbed is Jacare Souza, arguably the greatest BJJ practitioner in mixed martial arts, behind maybe Damian Maia, maybe not behind Charles Oliveira, you'd have to say, but like the man is up there. And the way that he got subbed, which was his arm being snapped. So for Andre Muniz to not only armbar Jacare Souza, but snap the man's arm, a legend like he is, I got to go with Andre Muniz. That was the most memorable sub for me.
I will go next, and I'll make it quick because I had the same pick. Yeah, man. All the same points. I couldn't really say better than Mark, just elucidated right there. So for me, it was the quality of the opponent, and Jacare is such, a legendary Brazilian jiu-jitsu master, and for a guy to get that sub over him and take a limb is just unbelievable. Omar.
So I tried to think of other ones that I really wanted to be there, but I had to land on Juliana versus Amanda. I had to.
Yeah, I thought about that too.
And here's the reason why. Your points about your picks are totally 100% valid. For me, the moment was just too big. The stakes were so big. And the fact that like 75% of the MMA universe did not even give this girl a fighting chance in hell.
75, more like 99.9.
I was being generous.
Yeah.
But yeah, nobody really gave her a chance in hell. And for her, I mean, this is not a submission that she just caught out of nowhere. This is a submission that she caught after beating the shit out of her for like a round and a half.
Yep.
So it was just, it was a moment where, like, you know, if you had a glass, you were doing what that dude did against Nate Diaz. It's just throwing it right in the air. Things are going all over the place. The moment is just so huge. What he did against, what Muniz did against Jacare was insane, but it was one of those, oh damn, that boy might be for real. Juliana's thing is legendary. That was the tap heard around the world that night.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love it. It's a cool pick.
Yeah, I like
stakes, man. The stakes was unbelievable.
So I considered AJ McKee was my other one.
Yes, that's a great one.
That's where I thought you were gonna go, just because I know you love McKee.
Okay.
I do love McKee, man. He's so fucking good.
I mean, me too. The guy's the man.
Let us move on to maybe the juiciest. Yeah, go ahead.
Real quick, I was gonna say I had Moreno and Davidson as an honorable mention as well, just because, again, the stakes and the only reason I didn't go with him is because of how biased I am with Brandon Moreno. You know what I mean? Big fan. And I just felt the stakes, but like the fact that he beat Figueiredo didn't surprise me as much as Juliana beating Amanda. So I had to give, and I talked so much shit about Juliana leading up to that fight. I had to.
Okay. Our next category of the evening is the and new knockout of the year. So this can be a knockout, I guess, or a TKO if you really want. So I will go first on this one.
Do it.
Boy, oh boy. I was caught between a couple of really nasty ones.
Oh, there's so many options.
So many options. I went with Corey, the Sandman Sanhagen, knocking out Frankie Edgar via flying knee. This happened at UFC Fight 9, Overeem versus Volkov in Las Vegas at the UFC Apex. The guy landed this flying knee on the legend Frankie Edgar at 28 seconds of the very first round. I mean, talk about a star-making moment. I mean, it was unbelievable to watch. I mean, it was a move, evidently, that Corey Sandhagen loves, because after that fight, he's landed that flying knee on just about every other opponent that he's faced since, but none in the devastating fashion that he did against Frankie Edgar. So that is my pick of Corey Sandhagen flying knee over Frankie Edgar.
There's so many. Like I narrowed it down to a list of 9. Obviously, that was on it. That one was just the way Frankie's body turned off. And just the like everyone watching that fight at once was like, oh no. Like it was just so, like, it was Frankie, you know, like, it was a bad one.
Yeah.
So yeah, of course that's on my list. I have others that I will definitely shout out at the end of this, because I couldn't remove any more than these 9 from my list, because I feel like they're all so good. In a similar vein to what Omar was saying about Pena, I landed on Kamaru Usman KOing Jorge Masvidal.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
There's a lot that went into it. A, title fight, huge title fight. B, the way that Masvidal went down, like he was shot. The image of the water or sweat or whatever it was, flying off his head, one of the most iconic knockout images in my career in my life of watching MMA. And then maybe most importantly of all, the fact that it was Jorge Masvidal, a guy who doesn't get knocked out. Like, you can't knock out Jorge Masvidal. And not only does he get knocked out bad, but he gets knocked out by a guy who's not even a knockout artist. So for Kamaru Usman to do that, to put that kind of stamp on a title defense, to put down a guy like Jorge in a way that no one even really thought he could. Like, you ask anyone, if this fight ends in a knockout, who's winning? The answer was Jorge. Usman wasn't winning by knockout. 100%. So for that to happen the way it did, for the image to be as iconic as it was, it's a title fight. I got to go with Kamaru Usman.
Nice.
Okay.
Respect. That
was also my pick.
Really?
Yes. However, I will be for most of the same reasons. He basically beat him. There's going to be pictures of that for like centuries to come. That is a whole wallpaper there. That's fuel for artists to put their artistic interpretations of. I mean, that's going to survive forever. And it's from a guy, like Mark said, that had no business knocking anybody out like that. And he really, I mean, if you had anybody picking anything, decision, maybe, right? Like a fairly unanimous decision. You could have even said maybe 10-8 rounds for 5 rounds, and it wouldn't have been that surprising.
Yeah, a ground and pound finish, maybe, but not like that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this was as perfect a punch as it generally gets. Yes. All the lead up super necessary punches, as far as I'm concerned, were maybe not as super necessary as they may have been. But
yeah.
But my backup was and this is why I got shot in the heart when you talk about Frankie Edgar, because my pick was Frankie Edgar versus Chito Vera. Chito Vera front kicked Frankie Edgar into space. And
Frankie was on the wrong side of some things this year.
Yeah, Frankie's having a rough year. And this one was also bad. This one is another picture that unfortunately will probably live in infamy for as long as his career is there. But to be honest, the reason why it was such a big deal is because that was the first real legitimate win of Chito's career against somebody who is credentialed, somebody who's been in the fire, somebody, again, who doesn't really get knocked out that easily. And regardless of, whether we want to discuss where Frankie is at the end of the day, the man is still a tough out. I don't see any scrub going in there and beating Frankie Edgar. So it was a big win for Chito.
Yeah, man. Ooh, great picks. Great picks. Man, oh man. If not, Mark, if not for Usman, who would have been your second pick? Who's your runner-up?
I don't know. I didn't narrow it down to a number 2. I just had the list, and I didn't even put Chito on it. I didn't even think of that one.
Honestly, I want to know. I want to know your picks. I want to know all of them because this shit was so hard.
I'll rattle them off real quick. This is in no particular order. I considered the Ngannou KO of Stipe just because of what a big deal it was, and the way that he dropped him. How Stipe, his knees bent and he fell backwards, over his knees. Sergio KOing Horiguchi.
Sure,
that may have been either Sandhagen or that. If I had to pick someone that wasn't Usman, that KO, just as we've said on the show, the way that he threw that head kick and then in air as the head kick missed, already was spinning his body to throw the spinning back fist and KO Horiguchi like that was just fucking legendary. And then the rest that I had were Rose's head kick on Wei Lee.
Sure,
was great. Fedor KOing Tim Johnson with that combo in Russia, fucking iconic. Derek Lewis's KO of Blades, the way he came in and caught him with that uppercut. Yuri Prohaska's spinning back elbow on Reyes was nuts.
Mm-hmm.
And then my last one, just because of the uniqueness, was the Edson Barbosa finish on Shane Burgos, where Burgos thought he was still fighting, and then his body was just like, wait, no, we're turning off. Like 5 seconds later. So all those were tough to choose between.
All great.
Dude,
go ahead.
Even Derek Lewis versus Dawkins right now that recently just passed, that was a bad knockout, man.
Yeah.
Dude, any Derek Lewis fight, he's gonna be up there.
That's so valid.
Was his knockout of Blades this year?
Yeah, was it not?
Was it earlier this year? I think it was.
Yeah, that was really the most difficult part, was remembering what was this year.
That was a nasty one too, man.
Yeah.
Whew. Okay. I came really close to picking Prohaska for the knockout.
When I heard you pick him as your breakthrough, I thought you were going to pick that knockout as well.
This close. I was this close. It was spectacular.
Yeah.
All right, guys. This is one of the biggest ones. Let us pick our 2021 and new fighter of the year. I'm sorry, fight of the year. We're going to do fight of the year first and then fighter. So, and new 2021 fight of the year. Who would like to go first?
I will.
Okay.
Unless Omar wants to. I don't want to take Omar's again. I felt
No, you're good. You're good.
This was tough for me because I feel like there is a right answer. I guess I'm gonna have to say both.
Oh.
I feel like there's a right answer, which is Justin Gaethje and Michael Chandler. And I feel like there's an answer where I felt more things, which was Brian Ortega and Alexander Volkanovski.
Son of a bitch.
Like that fight took me on a roller coaster.
Yep.
But it was also like kind of one-sided other than the moments in it. So I think by the definition of fight of the year, granted, I thought Gaethje outclassed Chandler too, but by the definition of fight of the year, I think I got to go with Justin Gaethje and Michael Chandler.
Wow. Great pick.
Just for
Great
the like insane war that they gave us.
I'll go next.
I'll go next. Catch, right, Mike?
What's that?
I was gonna type out good catch.
My pick, I feel like I'm alone in this pick, so I feel good about that. I don't know why. Again, a lot of great candidates for this fight of the year. I contemplated Gaethje Chandler. I contemplated Oliveira Chandler. My pick is Usman versus Covington 2.
Really?
Yes. Happened at UFC 268, November 6th at MSG in New York City. To me, this is one of those fights that watching it for me was like a freaking spiritual experience, man. It was like a transcendent experience watching these two guys just go toe to toe for 5 rounds. For Usman to find success early and to hurt Covington, but then Covington, who, I think we all were kind of in agreement that like Covington was the one who had to find a way to win this fight. And I thought he was, man. It's like he just kept kind of winning exchanges. It was an incredibly close fight. And I love rewatching that fight, man. It's a great fight.
Yeah, I love that fight too. I really did.
Yeah. My fight was the Volk versus Ortega. And generally for the reason that I was on an emotional roller coaster. Thinking back to all the fights that have been amazing, and they're all amazing in their own right. But the reality was, dude, that one had me standing up. That one had me walking around. That one had me screaming at the TV. I might have even thrown some shit at some point. The point is, there were so many ups and downs in there. And Brian Ortega, in my opinion, wasn't as one-sided as the Gaethje Chandler fight.
Yeah.
I think it was very comparable to one or the other. I just think the reality is Chandler just fucking keeps getting back up. Brian didn't get dropped that many times. So one would argue the toughness is in different areas where Brian doesn't actually go down, but can't fucking move his head out of the way. And Chandler, while he gets dropped numerous times, doesn't like staying down. So there's toughness in equal areas. They're just a little bit different into how they're expressed. I think they were fairly equal in their toughness, but the roller coaster of emotions, the real moment where we all thought Volk done fucked up. He had him, and then he just got caught in this crazy submission, gets out of it, gets put in another one that he has to get. I mean, it was wild, man. It was a wild fight. And I'm pretty sure Ortega came back by the final round, right? Like he was winning.
I thought he won 5
round.
It seemed like most people didn't, but I scored 5 for him. And that's one of the craziest parts, is that it looked like he was dead. Like there was a part where we didn't know if he was going to get off the stool, and then he wins round 5.
There was a point where we didn't know he was going to get off the floor.
Off the mat. That's what I should say. Yeah.
We didn't know he was going to get off
the stool,
floor.
the mat. Yeah.
But yeah, it was a crazy fight. It was everything you want out of a title fight, let alone a fight in general. It was beautiful.
I'm glad that someone took that, because that was my favorite fight of the year and the one that will stay with me the most from the year. I just like you were just saying, Volk won the first 4 rounds. So I was like, is fight of the year supposed to mean like crazy back and forth? Like, should I not be taking that? So that's why I went the other way. But that was my favorite fight. I fucking love that fight.
Yeah.
For me, Usman and Covington was the most like even like the whole way through. I thought that Chandler versus Gaethje was a little too much of a like a real just like a barn burner in which Gaethje really was just sort of pulling away.
Yeah.
For me, that real like just on the edge of my seat the whole time in terms of like who is winning this fight. It's such a good fight. That's what gave the edge to me to my pick.
See, I didn't have that feeling during the Covington 2 fight. I felt like Kamaru was winning most of that fight, but again, I have sort of a blind spot with Colby. I don't like that motherfucker. So like it's very possible I don't watch those fights with the most unbiased eye, but I do give him, I mean, that fight is legendary. Both of their fights, frankly, are legendary. Like, they'll go down in the books for sure.
Yeah, I love both of your guys' picks. They're good.
Well, thank you. Good to move on.
Yeah.
I'll throw out a few others just very fast.
Yes.
The one I mentioned earlier, Edson Barbosa, Shane Burgos, was insane.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
They were just killing each other. Rafael Fiziev and Bobby Green was a great fight. Just both in each other's face, never quit, a million punches thrown. And then another one that I feel like was great and doesn't really get the credit for being great was Max and Yair. Like, that fight was freaking awesome. Those guys threw down for 25 minutes.
I'm telling you, people, that fight is cursed by having been in like February or whatever the hell it was. That's really what it was. If that fight had happened
February.
like
October, you mean November
of last year?
It just happened, Max and Yair.
Did it really? You see what I mean?
Yeah, dude. That was Max's last fight. Dude, he just won.
Dude, he doesn't feel like he just fought. Oh my God.
November 13th.
Yeah, the Calvin Cater one was it was in January.
Yeah.
Which was also a great performance.
Yes.
We should have freaking did single fight performance of the year because it would have been that one.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
make a note for next year's awards.
Yeah. Shout out Max. You got an award. We should have had it. You're in.
We give you the Max Holloway Award.
Yes.
I mean, to your point, that was what made it hard to pick fight of the year. Because some performances like that, you're like, man, that's the fight of the year. But really, it's just like the one guy's performance within the fight.
Right.
Performance of the year next year.
I think maybe Moment is going to sort of fulfill that this time, but we'll see.
Oh, I went like legit Moment.
Oh, okay.
But okay. Maybe we went different ways. I like it.
Yeah, maybe we
did. For sure. Good to move on?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Let us now pick the 2021 and new fighter of the year. Who would like to go first? Man, oh man.
I'll go first because I have a feeling I might have everybody.
Someone besides me.
My fighter of the year is Kamaru Usman. And I think this is one of those, like, you can't really pick anybody else kind of things. And here's why. Kamaru Usman has had 3 title defenses this year. If this was like Kamaru of like 3 years ago, where he was like foot stomping people to death for the last year, we might have a different story, but he's legitimately be beating the shit out of people for these last 3 fights. So with that Masvidal fight was this year, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. That's why we picked it. Right. So it was Masvidal, it was Burns, and then it was Covington. Yeah. And all 3 of those performances were insane. Absolutely insane. It just at the highest level with the highest stakes, consistently just being overall better than everybody he fights. Just, it has to go to him.
I will go next. I also picked Kamaru Usman. Like you said, Omar, Usman, he fought 3 times this year, 3 title defenses, 2 knockouts, 2 incredible knockouts, one over one of the guys who's at the very top of the division in Gilbert Burns, knocked out Jorge Masvidal, who Mark pointed out earlier, doesn't get knocked out. And then his most recent fight is a fight of the year candidate. I mean, the guy is just, there's a reason why he is the number 1 pound for pound fighter in the world right now.
Yeah, it's unanimous. Nigerian Nightmare, Kamaru Usman. I think that there is one other guy you can consider for this category, which is Charles Oliveira. I feel like what broke the tie is that he only had 2 fights, but for his breakthrough to knock out Chandler, sub Poirier, finish both guys, probably the top division in all of MMA, for him to arise and become champ the way he did, I feel like I got to give him a shout out, but he is my silver medalist.
Yes.
it's got to be Usman for all the reasons that you guys said. 3 fights, 3 top guys, and they were all like unique challenges. Like Gilbert Burns, in my opinion, big time. You guys may remember me saying this. I thought it was easily the toughest stylistic challenge Usman had because he's always able to kind of decide where he wants the fight to go because he's so well-rounded. And against Burns for the first time, it was like, well, I don't really want to take it down because I might get tapped, and I don't really want to strike because Burns might knock me out. Like, it was like he didn't really have an avenue in that fight. And did he ever find an avenue?
Oh, yeah.
And then to come out of that one, fight Jorge with all the buildup. Oh, now it's a full camp. Jorge's like such a gangster and the whole persona to do what he did to Jorge and then settle the rivalry and beat Colby a second time. Just an unreal trifecta of fights, and it's got to be Kamaru Usman.
Absolutely. It is unanimous. Okay. We have arrived. The final award of the night.
Wait, should we give any we got to give a couple honorable mentions of the fighter, right?
Yes. I have a couple, actually. Let me go first.
Yeah, I didn't even think about it.
I had Oliveira as an honorable mention. Also, Brandon Moreno, in my opinion, honorable mention. Even though he only fought once.
Yeah.
He won the flyweight title in a huge upset over Figueiredo. I mean, such an amazing performance. And also, for me, haven't mentioned her yet on this podcast, Valentina.
Yep.
Valentina Shevchenko fought twice this year, winning what were her 5th and 6th consecutive title defenses of the women's flyweight title. I mean, she's, inching up more and more into the conversation of pound for pound greats, all-time women's greats, and one of my personal favorite fighters, regardless of gender. So shout out to Valentina for me.
She's suffering from the same issues that Demetrius Johnson, I feel like, suffered from, where as good as he is, the competition has never really seemed to be there. And I feel like they get the grunt end of that issue because everybody's, when we talk about John Jones and Demetrius Johnson back when, they were both in the UFC and they were both at their primes, like who had the better career, and the resume was really the main difference between the two. It's just, there just hasn't been the same type of fighters in those weight classes as some of the other ones, and Valentina is fantastic. And I think if Valentina had more competition or stronger competition, I would say, I still think she'd beat the shit out of these girls, but until we get there, we'll never really know. And I don't think she's ever going to get the credit that she deserves fully for what she's done.
What do you guys think would happen if Valentina fought Juliana Pena?
I think she'd beat her again.
I think she would beat her
again.
I think she would. Wait, again? Oh, you're right. Again.
Yeah, she fought at 135 before she dropped down to 125.
You're absolutely right. I remember the fight.
This was when
I said that.
Yeah, this was when I don't think anybody gave Valentina a chance to win by submission, and here she was pulling out arm bars against Juliana. Right. Took that shit home.
Yeah, I forgot all about that fight, but you're absolutely right. But yeah,
I would love to see that
work
again.
So yeah, Valentina was on my list as well as an honorable mention, just because of the dominance. Like, yes, it was only 2 fights, but the way she does it, and Max was on my list for that same exact reason. Only 2 fights, but same thing, the way he did it. Another that I considered was Rose, just beating Wei Li twice.
Yeah.
Marina Rodriguez, I feel like it's kind of a dark horse, but she was 3-0, beating Dern, Waterson, and Hebos, which I feel like is a hell of a resume.
That is, yeah.
Islam, of course, as I mentioned earlier. Cyril Gahn beating Rosenstrike, Volkov, Lewis to become the interim champ. That's a pretty huge year. And then Juliana Pena, as we've mentioned, kind of was in my consideration as well, but I couldn't go that way.
Cyril fought 3 times this year?
Yeah. Rosenstrike, Volkov, Lewis, all this year.
Holy shit. I didn't even realize that was all this year.
Yep.
Damn.
The Rosenstrike fight was like absolutely awful. So it's not surprising that you would forget that one.
Yeah.
Cool. Ready to move on?
Yes.
All right. Before we get to our very last award of the show, ladies and gentlemen, once again, like and subscribe on YouTube. Find us on social media at @new_MMA show. And if you want audio only, get us wherever you find your podcasts and new MMA show. And with that, gentlemen, let us dive into our final award category of the evening. This is the new moment of the year 2021. Mark, would you please go first?
Surely. So we may have different takes on this. I took this for me to mean the moment where I like felt the most. And for me, it was when Alexander Volkanovski popped his head out of a mounted guillotine from Brian Ortega. I could not believe what I was watching. I've never been so positive that a fight was over. I was already standing. I was already celebrating. And to see that man survive and fucking wiggle around like a fish the way he did and pop his head out of that guillotine, I will never forget what I felt in that moment. I will never forget that moment itself. I was just completely flabbergasted. And that is my moment of the year.
Wow.
I will also say that that's kind of the same way I interpreted it, as far as like what moment made me kind of like lose it a little bit, right? And I think this might be unique just because of the circumstances that this was under, but it is Juliana beating Amanda Nunes. And here's why. I was in Mexico when this happened.
Yeah.
We did the most to be able to watch this fight. Okay. From inside a hotel room with like some sketchy ass Wi-Fi. The wife loves Juliana Pena, has been a Velasquez and Vixen lover from Tough. Big fan.
Wow.
So we're watching this fight, you know, and you, again, I've been talking mad shit leading up to this fight, right?
Were you like, babe, she doesn't have a chance?
Yeah. And then she's kind of like, well, you know, you never know. You know, it's MMA, right? Like anything can happen. I was like, no, it's true, but like not really though, not against the right? Like there's a lot of shit. And so you know, she was like, you know, Juliana's been talking a lot about how she's gonna do it, this, that, and the other, and you know, I really think she's gonna do it. And I was like, all right. And so the fight starts going, and dude, I think I had my wife in a headlock at one point, just as crazy as that fight was getting. I couldn't believe what I was watching. And we're both just like staring at the computer screen, trying to figure out if this is real or not. The first round ends, the second round begins. We're both now out of bed because we were, you know, nice, romantic, laying in bed watching. Now we're both fucking out of bed. We're all getting crazy in front of this fight now. And it gets to the point where she gets her on the ground and she's got her back, and I'm like, no fucking way. she's like, she's got it. I'm like, no, she doesn't. There's no. And here comes Amanda tapping, and she loses it. I lose it. She goes on Instagram. She's posting all kinds of shit. Yo, I mean, we'll never forget that. We'll never forget that moment.
No. That was my second place. I love it.
Those are unique circumstances with the memory specifically, but it can't be topped in 2021. I'm sorry.
Man, so tough. I interpreted the moments more similar to Omar, and it being a somewhat bigger moment than an individual moment in a fight, which is still totally cool and totally valid. So tough, man. It was kind of a coin flip for me, but ultimately this might be the recency bias, but I did go with Juliana getting the win over Amanda because of the stakes, because of who Amanda Nunes is and the legacy that she has already built for herself. And for Juliana to do that to that level of superstar and that level of living, you know, active legend was just, you know, once in a generation, man. It was once in a generation. Like you said, Mark, it's like the feels in that second round, yes, where my both hands on my head, I'm alone in my house watching it, hands on my head. Yes. And I'm like, same. How is this happening? What is Amanda doing? Why is she letting this happen? And Juliana's like, she's doing this.
And I'm screaming in the middle of this fucking hotel. Like, I'm worried that at some point, like if I do it too loud, somebody's going to like call security. They're going to think I'm doing like something crazy is going on in the room. But like the fight I couldn't shut up. Like I could not keep my mouth shut. It was so crazy, that whole fight.
Yeah. I'll start with the honorable mentions. And for me, the honorable mention was very similar, which was Brandon Moreno defeating Figueiredo. But for me, what took a little bit of the shine off of that one was that was a rematch, and their first fight was incredibly close.
Yes.
Ended in a draw, didn't it?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
So there you go. If that had been their, I don't know, if that had been their first fight, or if the first fight ended up being a victory for Figueiredo, it would have been different. That being said, it was still such a monumental moment. Also, it needs to be said, first Mexican-born UFC champion in Brandon Moreno. So, I mean, which only added to that moment even more. But they're kind of very similar between Moreno defeating Figueiredo and Pena defeating Nunes, and both fighters kind of overcoming the Brazilian juggernaut of their division.
Yeah.
And sort of like a win of a lifetime kind of situation. So any other honorable mentions from you guys?
Yeah. So my second place was the Juliana one. Few others that I feel like I gotta give props to. Charles completing the comeback against Chandler and knocking him out to become lightweight champion was friggin' awesome. One that I feel like is kind of forgotten about is Dustin KOing Connor. Like, that was wild. Watching Connor actually get knocked out. Usman, as I said, knocking out Masvidal, with that whole image was just nuts. And then the other one that just sticks in my head, I don't know if it's necessarily a moment, but it will always stick in my head, is how cool it was to see Rose Namajunas saying, "I'm the best, I'm the best, I'm the best," KOing Weili Zhang, and then getting asked about it in the post fight and saying, "I am the best." Like, that whole, it was just perfect. I love that moment.
Yeah, that was amazing. Any other honorables from Omar?
So Brandon Moreno was on my list as well. Connor's leg snapping was also on my list.
That was quite the moment.
Yeah,
that's fair.
I mean, when you talk about a moment, that's as fucking crazy as they come.
That's our first episode ever.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's right.
Yeah.
So that one will forever live in infamy. But other than that, I mean, you guys covered all the good ones.
Such a gruesome injury to happen to the biggest star in the history of the sport.
Oh yeah.
Still won't humble him.
No.
No, nothing will.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be Connor if it did. Come on.
And that does it, ladies and gentlemen, for our first ever annual and new MMA show awards. This was awesome. I was looking forward to this all week long. I think it's only going to get better year after year. We should find ways to do awards again, like a 6-month award.
Like
I don't
mid-year
know.
Awards.
The mid-year award, the middies. I don't know.
It was good. I liked it. It was fun.
What other categories did we think of already? We thought of
performance of the year,
individual performance in a fight.
Could we do round of the year? Because that would have been Juliana, I guess.
We could do that. Yeah, round of the year.
Be interesting.
Good. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's all we came up with so far.
Cool, man. Cool.
If those of you listening have any ideas, feel free to share them. We'd love to hear them.
Yes.
I want to hear from the audience what has been our episode of the year so far.
Putting them on blast.
What number? How many are we up to now?
23.
I believe this is 23.
23. So when did we start? We started in the late summer?
Whenever, literally right after Connor broke his leg. So whatever date that was, we started that week.
Let's look it up. You looking, Omar?
Yeah.
I'm not.
His last fight.
I'm just going to YouTube and finding out when our fucking post went up.
July 10th of 2021. So we did it within the next 7 days after that.
Yeah. Within the next few, probably.
So yeah, we started halfway through the year, and now here we are, 23 episodes in. Pretty cool.
Yes, sir.
5 months.
Yeah.
It doesn't say specifically, and that's goddamn useless.
So yeah, man, to all of our listeners and all of our viewers and listeners, whoever has been with us from episode 1 all the way up to this point, thank you so much. We have a lot more great content coming your way, guys, next year. We're going to keep churning out episodes and doing what we love. Like I said at the very beginning of this, the three of us have been having this conversation for about 8 straight years, and now we're just recording it. So
yes, pretty much.
So we're glad that to include our audience in our conversations now. So yeah, man.
And so you guys know, we will be back next week as we enter 2022, doing a little 2022 preview. So kind of similar vibe. We still have no fights to recap or preview necessarily, but we're going to give you some things about our thoughts on what's to come in the new year, like who we think the champs may be by the end of the year, fights that we want to see, prospects to watch, that kind of deal, and whatever the hell else we come up with between now and then. If you got ideas, feel free to tell us those too.
Yeah, man. Comment, DM us, get at us, let us know. Any final thoughts or parting shots on the year, boys?
That's it for me. Happy New Year to everybody. Thank you for listening. We love all you guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to everybody. Be nice to people.
All right. We'll see you guys next week.
Peace.
Peace.